pregnant, on bed rest. My MIL faked a heart attack to steal my husband away. I'm 30 weeks pregnant and on strict bed rest after nearly going into early labor. My husband has been my rock. The false alarm. I'm 30 weeks pregnant, stuck on strict bed rest because my pregnancy has been hanging by a thread. It all started a month ago when, out of nowhere, I went into early labor at just 26 weeks. It was chaos, a rush to the hospital, the harsh glare of fluorescent lights, machines beeping all around me. My heart pounded as they told me my contractions were real and dangerously early. By some miracle, the doctors managed to stop them. But the warning that followed still echoes in my head. No physical strain. No unnecessary movement. No exceptions. I'm only allowed to get up for quick bathroom trips or short showers. No driving. No cooking. Nothing that could raise my blood pressure or push my body toward labor again. Since then, my husband has been doing everything, cooking, cleaning, helping me get to the bathroom, running every errand. We were managing. It wasn't easy, but we were in it together. Until that phone call. That morning started like any other. He was in the kitchen making breakfast while I stayed in bed, scrolling through my phone. Suddenly, his ringtone cut through the quiet. He answered, and his face went pale. Chest pain? Did you call an ambulance? He asked, panic tightening his voice. It was his mother. My mother-in-law lives 6 hours away in another state. She's a widow, and, well, she has a bit of a flair for drama. Even before I got pregnant, she would call my husband over the smallest things, a mild headache, a frozen computer, insisting he come help her in person. But this was different. Chest pain is no joke. I whispered urgently, tell her to call 911 now. He tried, but she refused. She insisted she was all alone and begged him to come, saying she couldn't drive herself. I could see the conflict tearing him in two. His mom might be having a heart attack, and I was lying helpless in bed, under strict doctor's orders not to be alone overnight. I have to go, he said finally, grabbing clothes. If she's having a heart attack, I can't ignore it. I pleaded with him to make sure she got help first, but he was already moving fast. Before leaving, he quickly set up a small cooler next to my bed with water, snacks, and hastily made sandwiches, then called our elderly neighbor to check in on me later. He kissed my forehead. I'm so sorry. I'll be back as soon as I can. And then, he was gone. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, my mind spinning. My blood pressure was already something my doctor worried about, and now it was skyrocketing from stress. If she really thought she was having a heart attack, why wouldn't she call an ambulance? The hours stretched painfully. I tried to convince myself I was just being paranoid, but the gnawing feeling in my gut wouldn't let go. She had a history of exaggerating illnesses for attention. Never something this serious, but still, was this just another performance? I hated myself for even thinking it. But as the silence dragged on, the suspicion only grew. No record, no emergency. Hours crawled by. My phone stayed silent except for the occasional vibration from a concerned friend checking in. But from my husband? Almost nothing. The only text I got read. I'm fine. She's okay so far. Might have been a false alarm. I'll explain later. A false alarm? My stomach twisted. I immediately called him, but it rang a few times before going to voicemail. I left no message, partly because I didn't know what to say, partly because I didn't trust myself to keep the frustration out of my voice. The nagging thought in the back of my mind grew louder. What if she lied? I couldn't just sit there wondering. So, I decided to check for myself. There are heartburn or a panic attack. Didn't want to sit in a waiting room. I went silent for a beat, my nails digging into my palm. Me, so, she made you drive 6 hours, left me here alone, and then decided she's fine? Him. Yeah. Pretty much. He went on to explain that she'd asked him to stay the night because she was shaken up. And that's why he was still at her house instead of on the road back to me. Then came the part that made my jaw tighten until it hurt. They'd spent the evening eating dinner, watching TV, and talking about her living room renovations. Paint colors. Furniture. Fabric swatches. I tried to keep my voice even. Me, do you think she lied to get you there? There was a long pause. Him. I don't know. I really hope not. But I can't talk about this right now without losing my temper. He said we'd discuss everything when he got home, then promised to leave first thing in the morning. I could tell he was holding a lot back, maybe because she was in the next room, maybe because admitting the truth out loud would make it real. I barely slept. My mind was a looping reel of anger, fear, and disbelief. If she had lied, if she'd used a fake heart attack to pull him away from his pregnant wife on bed rest, then this wasn't just selfish. It was cruel. The truth comes out. By the time I heard his car pull into the driveway, it was just past noon. I'd been watching the clock for hours, restless under the covers, my hospital bag within arm's reach, just in case. The moment he walked through the door, I broke. Tears blurred my vision as he leaned down, wrapping his arms around me as carefully as if I might shatter. Him, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We settled in, and for the next 2 hours, he laid it all out. When he arrived at his mom's place the day before, she was sitting comfortably on the couch. Not pale, not sweating, not clutching her chest. Just, fine. She insisted she didn't need the hospital after all, claiming the pain had passed. Then she launched into a speech about how lonely she'd been, how much she needed him there, how lucky it was he showed up when he did. At first, he thought maybe it had been a genuine scare that resolved on its own. But then she started showing him paint swatches for her living room, holding them up against the wall and asking which shade of blue he preferred. No mention of chest pain. No talk of follow-up care. Just home decor and small talk. That's when it clicked for him. Him, Mom, why did you call me about chest pains instead of calling an ambulance? She got defensive, accusing him of interrogating her. When he pressed further, the truth finally cracked through. She admitted she maybe exaggerated how bad she felt. She'd been stressed about her renovation decisions and upset that he hadn't visited in a while. She thought if she made it sound urgent, he'd come immediately. Yes. She faked a medical emergency to get him there. He told me, he snapped. He laid it all out, how her stunt had put me and our baby at risk, how he'd been stupid enough to fall for it, how this was beyond manipulative. She cried. Played the victim. Claimed she didn't know what else to do and never meant to cause trouble. But the damage was done. By morning, he'd had enough. He packed his bag, ignored her sobbing, and walked out without saying goodbye. Him, I don't think I'll ever believe her at face value again. We talked about boundaries. About the fact that this can never happen again. He agreed completely, even mentioned seeing a therapist to help him set limits with her. For now, he's going low contact. Maybe even no contact until after the baby's born. I forgave him, because I know his first instinct was to help, and I can't fault that. But the trust between him and his mother? That's another story entirely. The aftermath. Since he walked out of her house, my husband hasn't taken a single call from his mother. She sent a few vague texts, nothing apologetic, nothing that even hints at taking responsibility. And me? She hasn't reached out at all. Which tells me she knows exactly what she did. We've decided, at least for now, that she's not going to be part of the pregnancy or the birth. The risks, emotional and physical, are just too high. If she's willing to manufacture a crisis now, I can only imagine what she might do when the attention shifts from her to our newborn. I hate thinking this way. I wish things were different. But trust isn't something you can patch overnight. And the truth is, she didn't just betray me, she betrayed her own son. As for my husband, the guilt still lingers in his eyes. He keeps apologizing, but I told him the same thing over and over, his heart was in the right place. The villain here isn't him, it's the manipulation that made him choose between two emergencies when only one was real. I promised him that I'll work on letting this stress go for the baby's sake. My OB says the best thing I can do now is stay calm, rest, and keep my blood pressure down. So, we're focusing on the final stretch of this pregnancy, one day at a time. The hospital bag is still by my bed, the neighbor still checks in, and my husband is glued to my side. The phone stays on loud, but if her name flashes across the screen, I doubt either of us will answer. Because some lines, once crossed, can't be uncrossed.